Football has been played on the same ground the Chicago Bears have called home for over 100 years. Though the building they play in now is technically only a little over 20 years old, it's never been the right fit, and it's time to find a new one. You would think that would be easy. However, if you know the Bears and how things work in the city of Chicago, it's predictably become a farce of epic proportions. Let's look at the incredibly dumb Bears Stadium saga. Original Soldier Field. Before we get into the beef, let's understand the interesting story of where the Bears came from. The original Soldier Field was built back in 1922 for a cost of $13 million, equivalent to about $240 million today, by the city of Chicago, who were the owners/operators of the property. Originally known as Municipal Grant Park Stadium, the name was changed to Soldier Field 3 years later in 1925 in honor of the U.S. soldiers who died during World War I. Some say the sequel was much better. The stadium's design is a neoclassical style and fit over 100,000 people in the early days because back then they didn't have corn or the internet. Ready for a surprise? The Bears weren't even the first pro football team to play in Soldier Field. The Chicago Cardinals played their final season in Soldier Field in 1959, over 10 years before the Bears would move in 1971, coming over from Wrigley Field. Yes, Soldier Field was 49 years old before the Bears even moved in. I guess there's hope for me after all. Even back then, the Bears originally planned to build and own a stadium in Arlington Heights, but the property didn't fit the league's specifications. Oh, the irony. First replacement talks. As the already aging stadium got older, just like your mom, in 1989, one of the funniest named stadium proposals of all time came to be. It was called the McDome after Bears president Michael McCaskey, but was turned down by the Illinois state legislature, mostly because of the dumb name. Then in 1995, an outside firm proposed a 75,000 seat stadium in Gary, Indiana. I don't even want to think of that as a real thing. That one got rejected by the Lake County Council pretty quickly because, well, it was in Gary, Indiana. The spaceship lands. Finally, in 2002, it was decided the team needed a new stadium to call home. So rather than do the normal thing and build a new stadium, the stadium's interior would be demolished while the exterior would be preserved. The Bears had to play at Memorial Stadium at the University of Illinois for a year, while new Soldier Field was being renovated. Bet you didn't remember that. The new and improved Soldier Field cost over $630 million to complete, with the taxpayers footing $430 million of that bill, while the Bears and the NFL put up only $200 million. However, the Chicago Park District, aka the city of Chicago, would own and operate the stadium, which was met with instant criticism. Some new nicknames for the stadium were the eyesore on the lakeshore, the monstrosity on the midway, and even the mistake by the lake, which was just stolen from the Browns and Old Municipal Stadium. Trust me, don't ever steal anything from Cleveland.
Though at least we're not Detroit!
Despite the renovation, the stadium lost its designation as a National Historic Landmark. Yep, they kept the outside and still lost the designation. Tragic. Seriously though, I don't think it means much of anything. And so for over 20 years, the Bears lived uncomfortably in New Soldier Field like every single Bears QB in the pocket since. And that leads us to today. The drama. In the summer of 2021, the Bears submitted a bid for the Arlington Park racetrack property, a spacious flat plot of undeveloped land. Well, it had a racetrack on it. That's 1 hour away from Soldier Field. Just a couple of months later, the Bears and Churchill Downs reached an agreement for the property. Done deal, right?
Idiot!
Things got interesting. Once the Bears announced the Arlington Park or Arlington Heights proposal, the city started making things a little tough on the Bears by wooing them with competitive offers. And their new neighborhood started making things difficult on them too. Typical Chicagoland red tape. Despite announcing that the deal was done, it was far from it. So in January of 2023, the Bears realized they needed a little more muscle to help secure the stadium deal. So they hired a new president. former Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren. He had a strong reputation for bringing new stadiums to teams, helping the Vikings secure their new, largely publicly funded stadium. And soon he helped the Bears close the $190 million deal to buy the Arlington Heights property. Then they hired the Manica architecture firm to draw up plans for the new stadium. But issues began to pop up with the Arlington Heights purchase because, of course, they did. While the team hoped to build a state-of-the-art complex on the 326-acre property, local school districts got involved. They wanted the Bears to pay high property taxes. Yeah, the point of the Bears moving away from the city was so they could keep all the money for themselves, not to give it to some school teacher. Kevin Warren and the Bears weren't gonna let some nerd push them around, so they backed out of the stadium deal, but still owned the land. Now they had to lower the value of the Arlington Heights land to avoid larger tax bills because the McCaskies are so poor, you know. The Cook County assessor values the land at $197 million, or the amount the Bears paid for it. Makes sense. But the Bears disagreed and began literally destroying the racetrack on the land to alleviate their tax bill. Yeah, don't ever come for a rich person's money. What about the city? Were they going to take this move lying down? Remember Mayor Beetlejuice? Well, one thing she did was try and get the Bears to stay in the city, talking with George McCaskey in person about the matter, even trying to make the current Soldier Field a dome. At the time, the Bears had already announced the Arlington Heights project, so the city seemed desperate in throwing out any proposals they could to get the Bears not to leave for that slut Jolene in Arlington Heights. But because of red tape, those last-ditch efforts don't sound that crazy, and it was recently reported that the Arlington Heights project isn't a singular focus for the club. Now, Warren, the McCaskey family, and the Bears had a new dream: a $3.2 billion stadium right next to the current Soldier Field. This new plan has already run into issues. The governor of Illinois has made it clear that the Bears can't expect any public money for the new stadium. An interesting 180 from the plans put forth by the city early in the process. He says the state needs to focus on food and housing issues. Food and housing more important than football? That's just insane. The idea was a replacement stadium just south of Soldier Field in a place called Burham Park. It would be a massive build with 14 acres of athletic fields and recreational park space. It was built as a place where Super Bowls, Big Ten championships, and other high-profile games could be played. According to a Bears spokesperson, the lakefront site remains the team's focus. But is that really true? What really is next? Who knows? The Bears could turn back to Arlington Heights and deal with the school tax issues. Mind you, they already own the property. They could sack up and build the new stadium next to Soldier Field by themselves. Maybe the Burham Park proposal is just a red herring to get the Arlington Heights teachers to back down from their demands. Or they could just keep kicking the can down the road until new Soldier Field collapses. Yeah, that is the most likely scenario here. Either way, the Bears Stadium saga is a testament to how red tape, greed, and modern government all fight over sports teams and the money involved. The undercapitalized McCaskies can't just do what they want like Stan Kroenke did by throwing money around. The saga is far from over. Until then, grab your popcorn. It's probably gonna get much, much dumber. Hey, it's that off-season grind, and waiting for football makes it tough to get up in the morning. Well, with Bench Warmer Brew, the 5 Points blend, you can wake up and move another day closer to football. With ethically sourced, top-quality Arabica beans, this is truly high-quality coffee that tastes delicious. Ask anyone who has bought a bag, either ground or unground. And right now, you can use my code 5points10 to get a 10% discount for a one-time purchase or on subscription orders. And on t-shirts, just like this one. Go to benchwarmerbrew.com and use the code 5points10 and get 10% off your purchase today.